It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Folks, welcome back to the program, and also welcome back our special guest. We have Mr. Bob Bailey is back with us. He's a candidate for State Senate District 16. Special election is tomorrow, but we're doing a Get Out the Vote rally. I'm leaving for Russellville as soon as the program is over here in about 20 minutes. Bob Bailey, welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Paul. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Good morning. So how's the weekend going? How's the weekend been? I know it was probably a lot of door knocking and trying to get people on the phone and say, hey, we got a special election coming up.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we've been doing the last few days. We've been fortunate to have several volunteers come in from various areas and do some phone calling with us and door knocking. And we've been busy, but we've been getting some help, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Is there still any, we've talked extensively on Friday and some today about the attack that you received, the fake news, them drumming up those Facebook posts. Is that having an effect, or is it having the effect that you think that was desired, or is it actually kind of backfiring on some people?
Oh, it's definitely having an effect. I can't tell you how many people came by Friday and said, man, we never knew there was a special election. We never heard of you. We got to checking your Facebook, and we're voting for you. I've had people driving by in their trucks, thumbs up, and telling me, man, I saw it. I loved it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us a choice. So, yeah, it's having an effect. Whether it's the one that they intended on or not, I'm not sure. But we've had virtually all positive comments about that little hit job and no negatives that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Oh, I think even if you were persuaded to vote somebody other than you, if you were just look at the reporting from an objective, it screams like this is some sort of hit piece. It's very contrived journalistically. It just doesn't make any sense, and because they don't even have proof. I mean, they didn't even research their attacks. They're very easy to see through what they were trying to do here.
Well, I had a guy approach me, and he's on the radio up here quite often, and he said that was the most blatant misuse of public airwaves he had ever seen, and he had been making calls all the way up to the top of the line to voice his displeasure. Mm-hmm. And, if you got a little bit of a clue and you're paying attention, I mean, most people that I'm aware of read right through that stuff. I had several people come by and say, hey, man, we saw the big difference between you and your candidates, and if the governor doesn't want you, we're the one you're going to vote for. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that. So, yeah. I think it's kind of been turned around on them. It's given us more exposure than we would have had without it. And from what I'm seeing and hearing out there at the booth in front of the election place, it's had more of a, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm willing to fight for you guys. Hey, Asa doesn't want me here. And most people are saying, hey, you know what? We need some change. You're it. We didn't even know about it until they put this up there. And I've had a bunch of people thanking me, shaking my hand, saying, man, thanks for giving us a choice.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
exactly.
It's had an effect.
We're talking with Bob Bailey, folks. He's the Senate candidate for Republican for Senate District 16. The election is tomorrow. Bob, when you were on the program on Friday, you mentioned the word servant, and somebody had said that you've got to have a servant's demeanor when you go down there, and you said something that I thought was really powerful. Matter of fact, we clipped it out and made a separate video of it, circulated that around Facebook. That servants do what they're told, and they follow orders basically just without any protests. And you said we don't need servants, we need leaders.
Well, there's a time to be a servant, and there's a time to stand fast. And, when I think of being a servant, I'm thinking of serving the people that voted me in, not anybody else, not one man with an agenda, not several other people with an agenda, but serving what they want, what they need. Sometimes you just have to stand fast in the wind and buck up and grab onto something and fight for what you believe. Mm-hmm. That's not the time to be a servant.
You're exactly right. And right now, and I think honestly, I'm glad in a way that this fake news attack happened, because I think it made us all realize how desperate they are, how valuable they see this seat is. I think it maybe even is, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I mean, I think you realize that the stakes are pretty high right now as well, right? I mean, after to see the links they're willing to go to?
Yeah, I see them. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I didn't think they were that desperate down there. This just shows to illustrate that they are.
Oh, man.
They're wanting this Obama stuff, or excuse me, Arkansas Works stuff to pass.
Mm-hmm.
He's already, the governor's already come out and said, hey, if I can't get it here, we'll do a special election. Well, you know how I think about special elections. I think if you can't get something to pass in a regular session, going around it and having a special election where less people vote.
Special session.
Special session. I think that's deceitful. I think it's political trickery, and I don't like that either.
So we're going to be at this Get Out the Vote rally. It's today at 2 o'clock. It's in Russellville down on Main Street. It's the parking lot by the Brangus Steakhouse. So you guys come on out. Everybody that's listening across the state, feel free to to immigrate to the great city of Russellville. But those of you who are in Senate District 16, who are listening right now on 610 AM and 101.3 FM, KARV, or those of you listening on Facebook Live or YouTube or any of our other platforms, you guys feel free to come out. I'm going to be there. I'd love to meet you guys, but I think you really need to meet Bob Bailey. Now, Bob, tell us real quick, because I've got activists from all across the state who are interested in helping you. And I have one who's texted me and said that they're planning to go to Russellville to help make phone calls. Can Bob announce where you can go to make phone calls if you want to help the campaign?
Yes, I've got a young lady that is specifically set up to do that. We've been doing that in one of the local churches, and when you get up here, we'll tell you where that's at. You can go there, announce your intentions, and she will hook you up.
Okay.
I mean, we've got phone banks going pretty much all the time, and the woman that's doing this, Rachel, is very efficient at what she does, and that would be great.
I have another text from another activist wanting to know if they can help you phone bank, but can they do it from their home? Is that do we know if that's a thing?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. We'll figure it out then.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll figure it out. That's a good question though. I think that there's a lot of people that want to help, but maybe they can't actually get to Russellville and that sort of thing. So
certainly they could get on their phone, call everybody they know that can vote up here, and say, hey, vote for me.
Yeah,
or just go to the, a lot of people want to know what they're voting for. I respect that. I appreciate that. Just tell them to go to our website, Bob Bailey for Senate 16 on Facebook, and click on the issues and see exactly where we're standing at. Yeah,
that's right. That's good. So let me just ask you this. Can we is it possible that you have, I mean, obviously Arkansas Works is a big issue, and we've talked about that a lot. But I also know, and I want to remind everybody, I mean, but your business is firearms, right? So you are a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, and I mean, it is what it says it is, right? I mean, and so that's your position on that.
Well, you know what I tell people there? I say, go to my other firearms page, Bailey Signature Firearms, and check it out and remove all doubt.
Yeah. I mean, what do we say? I was just, like last week, I was interviewing Dan Wass in his book, Good Gun, Bad Guy, right? Isn't it funny, though? I mean, because it's all about the mindset of the anti-gun radicals. But isn't it weird? I mean, do you find it strange at all that we live in Arkansas and yet we have politicians that are not willing to stand up for our Second Amendment rights? I mean, the governor himself won't actually come out and tell the Arkansas police and tell all the prosecutors that we have constitutional carry. I mean, instead he said, check with your local prosecutor. Isn't that very strange? I mean, this is Arkansas. You think with the culture of guns that we have, we wouldn't be in this political correct I don't know, purgatory almost.
Yeah, I find it a little bit strange, but you gotta look at the polls. Arkansas is typically 5th or 6th in gun ownership in most of the polls that you see. And, here's the thing. Guns do not fit in a globalist utopia. So depending on your political bent, if you're a globalist, you're not going to come out and say, hey, I'm a globalist. You're going to act like a globalist. You're going to vote like a globalist, but you're going to say, well, I'm a Republican conservative. And you're going to attack the Second Amendment any which way you can. And that's what it's about. That's what I'm seeing, And people that attack firearms, that gives you a good indication of where they are at on everything else. I mean, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People who attack fire. I agree. I mean, that it does seem to kind of fall in line with all the other liberal issues too, because it's like you don't need to have that freedom, or
right.
you can have that freedom, but
we're going to regulate that freedom.
Yeah. And go ahead.
How can you regulate freedom? I mean, you're basically saying, I don't trust you to be able to defend yourself. And a lot of people say, well, defending yourself comes from the state. It comes from the government. No, it actually does not. It is a God-given right. We have protections in place to keep the state and the feds off of it, to leave it alone. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't aware of that. They think, well, we got to have a license to protect ourselves. No, you really don't. It's a God-given right.
Yeah, we really don't treat the Second Amendment like we treat any of the other amendments in the Bill of Rights.
Well, a lot of people have a hard time understanding shall not be infringed and what that actually means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly do. I'm just looking at, like, if you look at the Fourth Amendment or things like that, it's just, or the other amendments, it's like we don't. Now I know people want free speech zones. I mean, I know people have argued for that, which is kind of the beginning of it. But it just seems like we don't. And Trey Gowdy has an excellent Congressman Trey Gowdy. He dressed down somebody from the Obama administration one time, trying to get them to admit, hey, why don't we treat the First Amendment the way we're treating the Second Amendment when it comes to, I think they were trying to put people on lists or something, or take away their flying privileges or something. It was weird. But it really is, if you were to lose the Second Amendment is really, I feel like, one of the things that keeps the government in check, because it's not for hunting or fishing necessarily. It's really just for, hey, we need to protect ourselves or potentially protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. And that, of course, when you say that, makes everybody nervous.
Oh, yeah, it does. It causes some people to lose sleep and have the shivers at night, But you got to remember, if you look at the amendments, the first one is the right to free speech. The second one is the right to bear arms. Now, they put that in that particular order for a reason, because if you want to have free speech, sometimes throughout history that has required the use of weapons to back up your free speech. I mean, the founding forefathers, they knew what they were doing. They'd been through all this stuff before with England, and I think they got it right by making it the Second Amendment, not the Last Amendment or the Eighth Amendment or the Seventh Amendment. They made it the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a student of history, if you understand history, and I mean real history, not the revisionist stuff that they've been teaching here in school the last decade or so, you will understand how important the right to bear arms and protect yourself is. I mean, gun control, weapon control goes all the way back. I mean, in England, they did away with bows, They actually registered bows, and they did away with swords, and they did away with spears, and they did away with weapons of war. And this is something that's been going on since the beginning of time, and it's done all in the name of public safety to protect us from ourselves, but it's done by tyrants that don't want you to have the ability to shoot them if they get too crazy with you. That's what it's all about. That's all it's ever been about, and that's all it's ever going to be about. It's tyranny.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I like that observation on the just the psychology behind the First Amendment and those 5 freedoms there, petitioning the government, speech, religion, press, all of that stuff, and assembly. And then it's like, in order to secure those things, we want to make sure you know that the second one is, after we just fought the most powerful military force in the world at the time, we know that, letting individuals keep firearms is a check on government's authority and power. And if you look at the 20th century, Bob, I mean, when you have these people, when the people are disarmed, what comes next is really is death and murder of mass populations.
Right, that's right. You know, governments and genocide, governments are the biggest killers of people. Look throughout history. It's not man on man, it's government on citizens. And they'll separate various groups of citizens. You know, we saw the Jews in World War II. You see Muslims versus Christians. I mean, if you look at Sudan, you know, you have a North Sudan and a South Sudan, and that's basically Muslim versus Christian. And the people were disarmed, and the Muslims started eradicating Christians, and finally they took up guns for themselves and started a civil war and eventually won their independence. So, you know, history has all kinds of examples of what happens, one, when you get rid of weapons to defend yourself, and shortly thereafter, history proves itself over and over and over. You know, it's governments.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm excited for your candidacy, and I know, you know, it's voting days tomorrow, and I know early voting's still going on today, right?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, there's a little bit better turnout than what they expected.
Good.
Seems like a lot of people are catching on and coming out and vote. Of course, all three of the campaigns, you know, that's one of their main messages: get out and vote, because special elections are underreported, and
right.
You know, a lot of people they go by, and a lot of people say, "Man, I didn't even know there was a special election." You know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so that's one of the things we're putting out to
listen,
try to avoid.
I know you're anti-establishment. That's why I'm coming to this rally today at 2:00 at the parking lot by the Brangus Steakhouse there on Main Street in Russellville. That address is 1509 East Main Street in Russellville. Now, Bob, I'm going to be there before 2, but I can't wait. Okay. I know you're going to be there. I just encourage everybody out there to come out. It's a get-out-the-vote rally, the establishment versus the anti-establishment. And right now, the status quo and establishment, they're doing everything they can to keep Bob Bailey from getting this seat. And, Bob, I just want to say that I appreciate you being principled, and I appreciate you being anti-establishment and recognizing that the people are not being represented, and you're wanting to represent the people you know, more accurately, and I just want to commend you for that.
You know, I just have one agenda, just one, and that's do the right thing. That's all I'm about, you know, just do the right thing. And I don't see just a whole lot of that happening from where I'm looking.
No.
So I'm going to do my best to get in there and just stand fast against the hard wind sometimes, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you certainly know that it is a hard wind just based on the campaign process. And so that's a good thing that you know what kind of environment you're going into down there. Bob Bailey, I'll talk to you later this afternoon, sir.
Okay, I'll look forward to meeting you.
All righty. Yes, sir. Folks, we're going to take a break.